tell you a story that I wrote called A Letter to the Emperor. And it's a story about what some people did in a village who were worried about all the weapons that were around them. Now, this story starts with two quotations from two very important writers who lived about 100 years ago. One of them is an American writer, Walt Whitman, and the other is a Russian novelist, Leo Tolstoy. Let me read these passages for you. From Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, we hear this. And I will make a song for the ears of the president, full of weapons with menacing points, and behind the weapons, countless dissatisfied faces. And a song make I of the one formed out of all, the fanged and glittering one, whose head is over all. Resolute, warlike one, including and over all, however high the head of any else, that head is over all. From Tolstoy's War and Peace, we hear the following. Sometimes he remembered having heard that soldiers in a shelter under enemy fire, when they have nothing to do, make every effort to find some occupation the more easily to endure the danger. And it seemed to Pierre that all men were like those soldiers, seeking refuge from life. Some in ambition, some in cards, some in women, in wine, in playthings, horses, sport, and some in politics or government affairs. Nothing is trivial, nothing important, it's all the same. One should try to escape from it as best one can, thought Pierre. If only one didn't see it, that terrible it. Now, the third quotation comes from a very famous poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Paul Revere's Ride. Listen, my children, and you shall hear. The emperor cried, I will not be satisfied until I see them every place, growing on trees and floating in space. The other emperor across the ocean also had that very notion. More weapons, I need them quick. Build them fast and build them thick. Wizards of war sprang into action for their boss's satisfaction. Figuring figures and weaving wonder, they harness lightning and bottle the thunder. Muskets and cannons were way out of date. They make up tricks at a dizzying rate. They ply their craft and show their wares like pickles and pies at county fairs. Flaming spears erect on towers. Poisons that breathe from man-eating flowers, or a burnished mirror that spins and turns, reflecting a deadly flash that burns anything standing in its path or leaves the world a pile of ash. What will the wizards dream up next? The people wondered, already vexed. But daily the emperors fumed and fussed. Fancy weapons are a must! The wizards leaped and off they whirled. Daily, nightly, they unfurled their visions, revisions with squiggly lines, blueprints, symbols, and strange designs. Their deepest wishes, even their doodles, eventually turn into oodles and oodles of weapons here, weapons there. Deep underground or up in the air, a rocket so fast, it shows not a trace. Maybe this will win the race. For dashing about, one runs on a track around the hills and then rolls back, crawling or creeping or peering round trees. Contraptions arise where nobody sees. Under the ocean and up in the air, sailing on clouds, Each emperor rubs his hands in glee, lurking in craters in the dark of the moon. But up on Earth, near one small town, with farms and fields all around, the people worked and loved and played, but one thought would not go away. Something must give before it's too late. More of these weapons will seal our fate. Something must give before it's too late. More of these weapons will seal our fate. Would you repeat that, please? Something must give before it's too late. More of these weapons will seal our fate. Something must give before it's too late. More of these weapons will seal our fate. But some replied, what can be done? We need the weapons, everyone. But why so many? A farmer said, if we don't watch out, we'll all be... That secret word was left unsaid. The people talked with quiet voices, mulling it over and checking their choices. And meanwhile the wizards, their webs were still weaving, and none of the weapons was ever seen leaving. While over the waves of the deep blue sea, wizards there worked frantically. By day, when the sun shone in the sky, the people worked hard just to get by. But at night, by the light of the moon and the stars, they gathered to talk about stopping more wars. They talked of the weapons that grew more and more, and whispered about each emperor. They'd dress up in armor from head to toes and order new weapons like brand new clothes. Afraid they'll be naked, the emperors are similar. They glanced around. That sounded familiar. And then, as though with a delicate click, a thought came to mind that might do the trick. I'm not sure of just who said it, but whoever deserves a lot of credit. And this is what I heard was said. Stop them together, right where they are, no one ahead or behind too far. The emperors always act so tough. Now's their chance to show their stuff and call their wizards to a screeching halt. That would show they're worth their salt. With the wizards' hands well tied, new arms would stop on either side. They said, we must admit a bulb in our heads has just been lit. But how can we let the emperor know that this is the way we'd like to go? Send him a letter, said one bright man. A letter, a very good plan, but who would send it and what would it say? They paused a moment, a slight delay, and then it dawned. They turned to the mayor, who had just yawned. The mayor, to be sure, was now wide awake, and none too anxious this chance to take. Can you be sure? What about the emperor? What would he say, and what would he do? Of course, you know, I agree with you. These weapons really have to go, but then, I don't know. How do we know that we all agree? Some aren't sure, that you'll see. Let's vote, the people cried. That's the way we should decide. Should or shouldn't we send this note? The way to know is to take a vote. Mark yes or no, make our selection in the fall at the next election. And if the emperor makes a fuss, tell him the letters from all of us. Let's do that all together, shall we? Ready? I'll say the line and you sing it back. Let's vote, the people cried. Let's vote, the people cried. That's the way we should decide. That's the way we should decide. Should or shouldn't we send this note? Should or shouldn't we send this note? The way to know is to take a vote. The way to know is to take a vote. Mark yes or no, make our selection. Mark yes or no, make our selection. In the fall at the next election. In the fall at the next election. And if the emperor makes a fuss, and if the emperor makes a fuss, tell him the letters from all of us. Tell him the letters from all of us. And that was that. That was the plan. Each must judge, each woman and man, whether or not sending this letter might stop the wizards and make things better. And meanwhile, back at the meadows and streams, those wizards still wove their webs and their schemes. Seasons come and seasons go. Seeds are planted and some will grow. Heads of grain soon bended down as flocks of cranes flew over town. Harvest time came slipping past. The time to choose had come at last. People met in the village square, near the well, in the cool, crisp air. The village hushed. The children, watching, wondered what their folks were hatching. The secretary made the count. And stepping out, he then announced, the emperor will get this letter from us because today we voted yes. Let's hear some trumpets. Trumpets, drums, trumpets, trumpets. Let's hear some drums. Very good. More trumpets, more trumpets. Pretty good, pretty good. One more trumpet. With moonlight streaming overhead, he opened the scroll from which he read. We, the people, for years and years have watched with dread and rising fears as strange new weapons of every kind have spread and threaten all humankind. This race for arms has tried our patience with our leaders and our nations. Therefore we must underscore the time has come for Emperor to meet and talk with Emperor and finally really find a way to stop this racing right away. Stop together right where you are. No one ahead or behind too far. And furthermore, while at the meeting, find a way to check for cheating. This should have happened heretofore, but now it's needed as never before. Pull this off without delay, and we'll help out in any way. Oh, great and mighty Emperor, try that all together. No more weapons, nevermore. We want peace forevermore. Are you ready? No more weapons, nevermore. We want peace forevermore. Hooray! The people leaped and shouted. Let's hear a hooray. Let's hear a hooray, hooray, hooray. Hooray, the people leaped and shouted. Only a few turned and pouted, but most were singing with hope and glee and dancing about with jubilee. And even the mayor started singing too. If this doesn't work, 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 we'll try something new. We'll try, we'll try, we'll try, we'll try, we'll try something new. We'll try, we'll try, we'll try something new. If this doesn't work, 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 we'll try something new. We'll try, we'll try, we'll try, we'll try, we'll try something new. We'll try something new. The letter was written. The mayor then signed. They said, you go, but he declined. The mayor, who was timid, shook his head. I better stay home and work instead. Soon the hour of 12 would chime, but hooves on cobblestones rang in time. The rider was ready. She sprang to the saddle. The people cheered. Time to skedaddle. Quick as a meadowlark sings its song. Ride to the emperor. Don't take long. The bridle she turned and off she flew. Down cobbled streets and right on through. Galloping, galloping, gathering speed, never forgetting what her people need. She sees the sleeping sheep and the cattle as her hoofbeats ring and they rattle. Galloping, galloping, always ahead. Through other towns in the dark she sped. The moon reflecting ray upon ray gave her light that showed her the way. She saw the wizards that work by night with plastic eyes that need no light. As she rode by, they turned to sneer and listen with a hollow leer. And as she left them far behind, one thought would not leave her mind. I've got to get this message through before they think of something new. I've got to get this message through before they think of something new. I've got to get this message through before they think of something new. All together, shall we try that? I've got to get this message through before they think of something new. I've got to get this message through before they think of something new. I've got to get this message through before they think of something new. And then her pace she would increase, and the onward galloping never did cease, never did cease. In the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people awaken and listen to heed the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed, bearing the midnight message for peace. Now those last 4 lines are taken from Longfellow's poem, Paul Revere's Ride, in which he says, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people will awaken and listen to heed the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed. And I think in a strange way that Longfellow's prophecy has come to be. Because there's a new kind of Minuteman and Minutewoman that warns us about the danger all around us. Let's sing that last part together, shall we? Ready? In the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people awaken and listen to heed the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed, bearing the midnight message for peace. Seasons come and seasons go. Seeds are planted and some will grow. Heads of grain soon bended down, as flocks of cranes flew over I wrote a letter to the Emperor a year ago because I thought there needed to be some way to celebrate what we, the people of North Dakota, did in November of 1982, when we voted to send a letter to the President asking him to propose to the Soviet Union a new opportunity for peace. There needed to be some way to celebrate that event. And there was some need to find a way to affirm what the people had done. So I wrote a letter to the emperor. We published it as a booklet with beautiful illustrations, the illustrations you've been seeing, by Michael and Jean Kane, two artists from Mandan, North Dakota. I think we need art that teaches us the way of peace. And a letter to the emperor tries to do that.
Opinions expressed on Free Space are not necessarily those of Prairie Public Television. Programs are not intended to be balanced presentations, but only to provide broadcast time to nonprofit groups and issues. Free Space is a public access program for the public.